For those of you who know, I have a deep love-hate for this land acknowledgement. You know, that it's 3 paragraphs that I've tried to say everything that needs to be said. And really the gist of it is just to acknowledge the wiping out of the Nisenan people here, and that it has been invisible and erased for so long, and that we are, as a community, I think, as we move forward with all these amazing social justice and environmental justice moments, that we remember the land that we're on, that the Nisenan people, you know, were the stewards of this land for so very, very long. Where my heart always goes is all the missing animals and plants from this landscape, and how much it's been changed, so that, you know, the great Uba River was uncontainable at one point in time, that of course now it's filled with its levee systems, and, you know, she is contained for whatever moment this is. And then all the ancestors that are buried here, that are very much in our hearts. I feel that most of them in the recent past, in the great arc of time, died in poverty and in, you know, a lot of bad ways. That those are the things that are important to me. And when I step onto somebody else's territory in their land, those are the things that I think of as a visitor in any place where I go. I try to always highlight that first. Traditionally, that was, you're supposed to be welcomed and invited so you don't get sick, mostly from those dead folk. And you know, the things that you should be invited into somebody's house, don't just go in and make yourself comfortable and eat their food and whatnot. So but really, I think that is the gist of the land acknowledgement that most people can get behind, and knowing that this place is different now. I think a lot of us who live here long for sustainability. We long for these things as community members. We long for community itself. And to know that there was something here that existed like in perpetual motion with nature. Humans had their place in the scheme of things. And I feel us here longing to get back to that, you know, something that was here for so long and torn apart. And then it's all of us who can put those pieces back together and truly be a community where everybody is seen and everybody is respected. The animals, no matter how small, we all need fresh water, fresh air, and soil to live on this planet. Otherwise, we should just, you know, cement it all and get fake everything, which is fine. If you read good sci-fi, they're always out there in the spaceship in the cold darkness of space, just looking for a habitable planet. And we're here. You know, we just, people forget we all come from those roots, no matter where we are on the planet. If you go back far enough, there are these nature systems where people just live together. And so really, that's at the heart of the land acknowledgement. I hate the words itself with our written one, but I see it doing its job, like it's bringing visibility and understanding. I hope that, you know, our communities all can weave together in some way where we're proud to be together on this land and, you know, doing good for the generations to come.
I'm also considered to understand what's art in your perspective, or because, I mean, is it just something that we can look at, or is it something that actually does something?
Artists must create public awareness around issues that are critical to society. Even creating awareness is a major step, isn't it? And there are 2 things that stand out as critical in your region. One is education, and if I look at, I'm seeing again very low high school enrollment, and the other is social. So what's that? What is social? The degree to which individuals are identifying themselves through the senses. How can we as artists create change so that folks feel safe to let us know they are there? And that voice, the voice of the individual, is very important in terms of health.
Are art grants only given to things that show up on this rudimentary instrument, or are they given to people with divine creativity?
I love it. I also love to feel that we all have some sort of divine creativity.
I'm not saying that's not it.
I know what you mean. No, I appreciate that. It goes back to that sort of understanding of lived experience versus what we're told we should be looking for. So on the one hand, California Arts Council, in its narrative, have specifically called out things like fire and civic engagement and social justice and water and climate mitigation, all these really important things. And on the other hand, has given us this tool. So it's gonna be a case of marrying how we describe our project with what we've been shared from the state.
You know, artists are gamblers. They sacrifice a lot for their own experiences and creations and travel the globe or do things like that are out of the norm, and they live out of the status quo. And I see that they might not be voters. They might not be organizational structural people who can sit here for an hour and look at this map, and they need their basic needs covered.
We want there to be a strong social connection between all of you. We want to create case studies from the projects that come from this. Imagine this is the first statewide workforce development arts program in the nation in terms of its organizational capacity. So all eyes are upon California to make this a success. And when we're thinking about upstate California, we're talking about rural California, conditions that are very, very different from the folks who created this map and decided what data would influence it. So again, it's a lot of lived experiences that we're going to want feedback, because that's part of a pilot, is that very important feedback. Make this more relevant. These are the things that you should be counting or should be taking into account.
And then I'd like to kind of see how the artists actually point to what is really, really relevant.
But to see that the low education scores, it's shocking. But it's validating to me because that is what I'm seeing with the children that I'm working with. And so, I don't know, just to say that maybe there is some humanity.
Looking at this as an analytic person generally, it did speak to me in a lot of ways, but I've also spent the last 3 years writing these ridiculous government grants and learning how to take the data and the analytic side and putting the humanity in and telling the stories through the way that they want to hear the story, so they can, these analytic minds who are grading these grants can recognize the humanity in the story. And I think that perhaps some of the solution is to put the analytic brains like mine together with the artistic brains, and together we come up with something amazing. That maybe it's the collaboration we're looking for.
Pretty much all of us in this room will be having some level of cognitive dissonance in relation to this whole thing, but the incredible opportunity at last, and artists are going to actually be paid for something. Claire is the founder of the most beautiful, profoundly effective organization called Tree Sisters. So she, more than anyone, knows about making data look human and creating humanity around issues critical to society.
So I'm an analytical mind that works with a lot of creatives, and I think sometimes it helps to overlay something creative onto the data. So I would offer, read it like poetry and hear the gaps, right? Or look at it like a photograph and look for the negative space and how much information is contained there. So it's not, I see so much art in here, but it's not overt, right? It doesn't mean it's not there. And I think it's such an opportunity for the more artistic minds to look and explore those dark gaps and the folds inside, or the poetry of what can appear as very dry analytics.
I want to get kind of technical with you.
For the grant, it's for artists. How can arts organizations, support the artists through these grants? Do you have suggestions or ideas in that sense?
You will go to a group of artists because you'll have something in mind that you feel is relevant and meaningful, and then marry that with the artist, and you'll pay the artist, and you'll pay them well, and you'll create an incredible project together. And the artist will benefit from your grant writing expertise, for example, and then you'll have a fund that can be used for artist supplies or rental of spaces, for example, for residencies, whatever it is. So there's a lot that you as an arts organization has that artists can really benefit from, like space and your capacity to write a great grant application, for example, and then also mentor the artist. Mentoring is very important, offering technical assistance. We will want all grantees to think about how they document their work so that the rest of the world can experience their work, so that it doesn't remain as an insular bubble, and that ultimately we'd love to draw from among the grantees case studies which we can shine a light on across California. So all these things an organization can actually help with tremendously. How do we apportion the funding? If we were to dosh out the money county to county, it would be about 170, 180,000 per county. We could do it by that. It's the simplest way. But perhaps a more creative way is to look at an algorithm that would include things like the county, it would be nice to think that every county would get at least one project. But that beyond that, we take into account the county's population, its geographic size, its tribal makeup. I personally feel passionate about a sense of reparations that we can all make in terms of an awareness of who our tribes are and what does that mean, how are they involved, how are they at the table. The overall proposal strength is going to be paramount. Get yourselves a good proposal together. We'll help you when the time comes, not with the minutiae of writing a grant, but we'll be providing workshops on grant writing. And again, arts organizations can buddy up with you as artists. The likely longevity or the sustainability of the project beyond the grant activity period. Think, what I create, could this be replicated in another community? Could it become a gold standard or a benchmark for a project that another county struggling with the same issues can use over and over? And then options of cross-county collaboration and mentoring. I love that idea. Again, just think back to that Yuba watershed map.
I wonder, is there opportunity for organizations from each of those counties to collectively apply for a larger grant, perhaps?
Absolutely. It's one of the questions we're asking ourselves. Probably we'll want, among a collaboration or among a partner, there's usually one lead applicant. That's what certainly California Arts Council is always asking of us. We will often apply in partnership with other organizations, entities, and groups of artists, but we'll be the lead partner. What is the smallest grant, the easiest to get, smallest grant that would make sense that you could create change from?
I feel that I want to devote more time as an artist. I've been an administrator, but I've got ideas for the grant or for grants and for employing artists. Not sure how much I want to spend time administrating, but if I would do that, I would want to be reimbursed.
Yeah.
So I think that may reflect what other people are thinking in the room too, is that we need people who are artist administrators. We talked about this at the other meeting. And I'm just wondering how that fits in with the grant projects.
California Arts Council simply doesn't have a history of giving money directly to artists to pay them. This is such a beautiful opportunity for artists to apply directly to this fund. But as we're seeing, especially in the rural northern part of California, artists are sometimes lacking in the capacity to engage in the way that they want to manifest and they need to manifest.
as you consider how to set up the guidelines or even the application, I think, it's really disheartening as an artist to go to a website and feel intimidated by the opportunity. There are a lot of more equitable grant giving processes that are available now that actually enable people to, it's less about personal opinion qualifying someone's artwork and more about the impact of the project, So I just wanted to put that out there. I know that's already on your minds, but any way that we can stop it feeling from like a tax form, hallelujah.
How can we preserve the dignity of the artist through this program? How can it be reflected in the way that we ask artists to apply for funding? I, as an arts administrator and arts leader, often feel stripped of my humanity as I'm applying for these kind of state and local funds. It's terrifying. I'm putting myself on the line. I don't want artists to feel miserable, and Nevada County Arts Council feels a strong responsibility towards you all. So we'll do our best, but we'll hold that sense of dignity for the artists in mind.
I'm just wondering if you have a device, or if we could start cooking up a device for people who may want to put some ideas out there, and we can get a chance to see what they're working on and say, hey, this is our idea, let's put our heads together. A way for us all to communicate from this point forward, and kind of like what next steps as we all are understanding HPI and all that has been thrown out tonight.
We have a Facebook page, but it's the whole 19 counties, but with our county in mind, we could create one, and I will suggest this to other counties. And what we'll probably suggest to our partners, those agencies, is that they create some kind of wonderful, crazy group with, like an open forum for communicating ideas and connecting with each other. Yes.
Could we please, for the love of God, leave out statistics? Because I know no one in here is smart enough to truly understand it.
Lots of ideas in the work, and I really encourage you not to be put off by the data, but nevertheless to be thinking about what is at the heart of this. We've been given some good clues. Now it's up to you to start mobilizing around those clues.
The project idea was to get the poets working with the scientists to create the emotional attachment to the data, right? So that the people could actually feel and understand what was going on. So as I'm listening here, I'm thinking, well, that's kind of an interesting parallel when you said, how do we connect with the real on the ground experience? That's something that artists can do. And then I like the idea that you said here of partnering with people from other sectors, right? Someone from health, or someone from social, or someone from education. And then it's a little bit of a team doing that together.
I'm really wanting to both kind of acknowledge the extraordinary moment for Truckee Artist Lofts in terms of its kind of birth into the community during such an impossible moment as a global pandemic. And also, mixed use, affordable, transient oriented housing is such an extraordinary thing to have in a rural community.
I'm totally inspired by this listening session, and as a Truckee Artist Loft resident, I'm keenly aware of some of the climate and environmental issues directly around us. Just like Sarah Horton, I've lived at the lake for some years. I was in Tahoe City, and a neighbor friend I had there studied the ground here around the rail yard, and it's known as, just water scientists like her, as a brownfield. It's kind of partially kind of a mixed bag, if you will, of pollutants, and the Trout Creek has a long history of pollution that runs through the rail yard. It would be great if we could partner with the Truckee River Watershed Council and do some kind of Trout Creek restoration, maybe paint a mural of some kind of protective barrier or other things to protect fish or wildlife in that area. We have a lot of pride here at TAL, a lot of people representing all kinds of communities.
I used to work for the Children's Museum long time ago, and we did a lot of Latino outreach. When I started working there, it was zero visitation from the Latino community. And we did a program, and in about 2 years, we increased it in 500%. There is ways to outreach the community.
30% of our population is Hispanic, and therefore, this listening session is great, but it's conducted in English, and so I'm just curious if throughout the grant application process, if there will be bilingual materials or some more targeted outreach for the Latinx populations across this region.
I so encourage, especially in the eastern part of our county where the demographics look a little different, and it's so obvious, like we can't possibly ignore the really high prevalence of Latino demographics. So how can we reach this community? Sierra Community House would be a marvelous place to start, but there are other community resources that I'm sure we're missing.
This can be ongoing with information and bringing forward. Please keep bringing your ideas forward.